MG Rob back with you again, and as of right now I have 8 days to get this thing ready for the track. Still got a long way to go. My tires showed up the other day. I bought Toyo Proxys RA1s this time, and even though they're technically the exact same size tire as the Hoosier Street TDs I was running before, they physically are just a little bit wider. And I may or may not have accounted for quite enough room within the wheel wells for clearance. So I've taken them in to get them mounted, and the shop that's doing them has been very busy lately, so they asked me to give them a day or two. So I am going to start working on the mechanical work, and then I'll pick those up in a few days. And when I find out whether they'll fit or not, then I can make adjustments as needed before I finish the body work. So we're on the mechanical work. So this is going to be my new rear axle. I still need to clean it up, go through the brakes, put some seals in it, and I got to weld some brackets on for my sway bar links. Now the reason I'm switching to this is it is about 50 pounds lighter than the cast iron tube axle rear end that's in there now. And this car currently is about 50 pounds heavier in the rear than it is in the front. So I want to do that to balance it out. And there's my engine. Now the only thing I know about this engine is that it came out of Project Ginsu. And when I brought that car to the shop some 15 years ago originally, I had run a compression check on it. It looked pretty decent, had it running, had decent oil pressure, and it ran just fine. And it's been run once or twice since then, and otherwise just been hanging out here at the shop. So, well, let's get going. Well, that concludes the rattle can rebuild. Normally I would try to do a little bit nicer job painting it, but it's just going to be in there for this season, and that's probably it. So now I can swap over my oil pan, water pump, valve cover, and all the other bits and pieces from my other engine. Well, with the oil pan off, I see no signs that this thing's ever been rebuilt. Still see all the factory numbers here and no additional numbers from where somebody may have taken it apart and marked them which cylinder that they went on. The gasket looked like a factory gasket and everything. And it is a bit gummed up here, bit of sludge. So this thing hasn't been run in many years, any at all. So the old oil was really bad about that. On this oil pan I'm putting on, the reason I'm putting it on is it's got the baffle in it, which is a duplicate of the special tuning baffle that was in the factory workshop manuals. I'm going to control some of the oil surges at least a little bit while I'm autocrossing. Alright, well, I was going to check the clearances at the valves, and I noticed that a couple of valves did not open far enough. So I pulled the lifters out, and we have Number 3, 4, and 5 are trashed. And the cam is toast as well. So I was going to pull the cam out of this short block here, but then I found 3 bad lifters in it. So plan C is I got 2 more short blocks with cams and lifters in them sitting out in the shed, and I'm going to go take a look at those. Success! I found a usable cam and lifters out of the least likely engine I would have expected to find it in. Good thing I keep so much useless junk around. This was out of a block sitting in my shed. The only thing in it was cam, lifters, and crankshaft. And I don't even remember where it came from. So now we can continue moving forward and put this cam and those lifters in it and get this thing back together. Well, as I usually tell my customers, it's the might as wells that'll get you in the end. So I figured I might as well take a look at the cylinder walls since it felt a little funky when I was turning it over, make sure they weren't rusty, and clean the carbon off the tops of the pistons, which at the end makes it easier to go ahead and check the cam timing, make sure it's correct. And then I'm going to put a fresh head gasket on it and go ahead and put my ARP studs in it, and I'll probably just go ahead and drop my head on it instead of the head that was on it, since it has a fairly fresh valve job and everything on it, so it'd be the better head to run anyway. And while I'm at it, I'm putting the later timing cover on it and a later harmonic balancer so that the timing marks will be on the top instead of the bottom, so it'd be easier to check cam time or ignition timing. So moving along, just taking time. So it looks like at the end of the day I ended up doing a lot more than just a rattle can rebuild. Pretty much the only thing left of the motor that I was going to use is the block, rotating assembly, and timing chain. That's about it. Everything else has been replaced with parts from 2 other engines. So tomorrow, swap my valve cover back on it, get the backing plate on it, and flywheel and all that stuff, and finish up the transmission, get it all together, and try to get it in the car. If you like what I'm doing here, give me a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. This is MG Rob. See you later.